Overwatch 2 has committed itself to a restart and immediately dropped the 2 from its name. A new season started, 5 new heroes were added, and that broke a record, at least where we can somewhat verify it, namely on Steam, where more than 165,000 players were active at the same time at the start of the season. That's more than ever before. So the game is currently in what you could call a hype storm. The new features are already causing discussion. There's apparently a new cat hero who's totally overpowered, but we'll get to all of that in a moment. What exactly is new? Does the game have long-term potential now? We first need to go back and look at what actually went wrong, because you also have to remember that it was one of the worst reviewed games on Steam from a major publisher. Sure, there are badly rated games on Steam, but this was one people thought should be very good. Overwatch 1 was hugely popular. Then the sequel arrived on Steam with some delay and got absolutely slammed with criticism. Remind us again, why did the game crash so badly back then? It was never really about the gameplay itself, but about what Blizzard had promised. The deal was that Overwatch 2 would truly be a new game because a PvE mode was supposed to arrive, moving away from PvP towards single-player content, expanding the lore and the heroes, which was always one of Overwatch's strengths. But then that got scrapped. Even before release, they said it would still be Overwatch 2, free to play with a battle pass, but without PvE. That combination made things extremely explosive and felt like a slap in the face to everyone who bought Overwatch. Then it launched. Gameplay-wise, despite some bugs, it was still what people knew and loved, but the battle pass was terrible because you couldn't really unlock anything anymore, at least at launch. They removed the beloved 6 versus 6 mode, cut one tank, and turned it into 5 versus 5. That also didn't go over well. It felt like taking a very good game and driving it straight into the wall from a PR standpoint. You promise everything players want, then say, actually, you're not getting that. Here's free to play and a battle pass, have fun. It felt like a downgrade across the board. Since that disastrous start, though, a lot has already changed. And to understand where we are now with the new updates, we need to talk about what's already been adjusted. A major criticism was removing 6 versus 6. That actually came back and still exists. There were new heroes, nothing unusual, that's always been part of Overwatch. But they continued expanding content overall. The most interesting thing was that loot boxes partially returned. Normally people hate loot boxes, but Overwatch was an exception. Overwatch 1 had some of the fairest loot boxes ever, and they've brought that back a bit, even though they're still sticking with the Battle Pass system. There's now more you can unlock without spending money. There were new maps, some hero reworks, new modes, a perk system, seasons, lots of additional content. There was also PvE content, and you had to buy it separately, which was a bit silly. In the end, they built up a foundation of content and updates that makes the new overhaul hit harder, almost like a redemption arc. That's the big hope, at least. Overwatch 2 had 20 seasons. Now Overwatch, formerly Overwatch 2, restarts at Season 1. As an outsider, you might be a bit confused. Is Overwatch 1 even still running? No, that's the next thing. They basically killed it. When Overwatch 2 launched, they shut down Overwatch 1 and said, if you bought Overwatch 1, you'll keep your heroes, skins, and unlocks, but now you're using this worse version of the game you loved. That makes the anger much more understandable and explains why things went so badly. And now there's a restart. The game is called Overwatch again, starting Season 1 with a big package, including 5 new heroes. What's exciting is that normally you get maybe 1 new hero per season. Now you get 5. 1 tank, 2 damage dealers, and 2 supports. That's huge, and you can feel it in the game right now. Player numbers are clearly up. It's super exciting. They're all fun in different ways. Domina is very cool, very offensive, with a powerful shot and a shield. Emre is another damage dealer. Interesting because he can switch weapon types at the press of a button. Andran is a close combat character who jumps into and out of crowds to deal lots of damage. The jetpack hero is actually a healer who flies around and can carry teammates. Right now, it's exciting because nobody really knows how to play them yet. There's no clear meta, lots of ideas, but nothing established. That creates a lot of chaos, but in a good way. Besides the heroes, Season 1 also brought other changes. The new update comes with a conquest event lasting 5 weeks, similar to Splatoon, where you pick a side, either Overwatch or Talon. The more victories you earn, the more your faction climbs. There are rewards like loot boxes and cosmetics. It's more of a side activity like the strange Hello Kitty event. The entire UI has been redesigned. If you played the old version for years, it feels unintuitive. Menus used to be on the left, now they're at the top. There are also small things like balance adjustments, voice lines, bits of story. Personally, though, something is still missing. They said they wanted to focus more on story and released a cool cinematic where Talon undergoes a power shift through Vendetta, but only in cinematics, not actually in the game. So much for the new content and adjustments. As mentioned earlier, there are already controversies. People argue whether the jetpack cat is overpowered, but there's another controversy about a new hero. It's really interesting. It's about Andron, one of the new damage heroes who was playable earlier as a playtest character. The debate is that she doesn't look the same in the game as she does in the comics and cinematics. In those, she looked older, had sharper facial features, felt more like a big sister, and didn't fit a typical beauty ideal. But in the game, she looks more generic. Doll-like face, thin nose, narrow lips, big eyes, very similar to other female heroes. There was a funny meme where they put Andron's face with different hairstyles from other heroes, and everything looked almost identical. The main criticism was that her design now follows a stereotypical Asian beauty standard and doesn't match what players previously saw. The debate got so big that even the voice actress Faria criticized it on Reddit, saying it didn't feel right and she imagined the character differently. She got a lot of support, and it went so far that Blizzard announced changes, not gameplay changes, but visual ones. They want to make her more like that big sister version again. That's interesting because normally these debates don't go that far, like with Aloy, where people argued whether she was too pretty or not pretty enough. But here fans clearly said, we want the original Vision back. Maybe they shouldn't have presented her differently in the first place, especially if characters are such a big focus. Overwatch 2 is now called Overwatch Again, has introduced lots of changes, and is trying to regain acceptance. Overwatch 2 should have launched in the state it's in now, then the backlash probably wouldn't have been so intense. Whether this momentum lasts or if it's just new toys that everyone plays with for a week. Right now, the excitement is huge. Everyone meets up to play together. Expect player numbers to drop again, and Overwatch will probably never reach the heights of the original Overwatch 1 era. But there will be a core player community who stick around. Still, it'll never be exactly like Overwatch 1 again. Overwatch has suddenly become a more exciting game again. Maybe never quite what it once was, but definitely worth a look. It's free to try after all. If you're interested, check it out.